Yo, Inca, you want to come out here? Welcome back to the MDA. My name is Incog, and let's just jump into what the matchups are for quarterfinals of the MDA. If you are not privy to the information, it was Primer and Komori, aka the Rachis Annihilate and the Kalui Comb Phase, respectively, that got the week off, and we have some very interesting matchups for this playoff scenario. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First off, this is the 4-5 matchup. We have Knack Nasty and No More Heroes versus Stuffle Ian and his Orlando Solarbertix. Since Knack decided to get rid of some mons pre-week 7, they've decided to forego any transactions before playoffs, and this obviously was before they knew who they were playing. While Orlando decided to drop the Heatran and Mega Scizor from Melmetal and Mega Beedrill respectively. As of the recording, neither team has put up a ban. I suspect, based on what I know about these two teams, that we're probably going to see some pretty consistent bans. For those who are not keeping track, the first and only time they played, Orlando took the victory over them. I think it was 2-0 as far as I understood to be in week 5. And they were pretty good games. From the last time I remember it, I think Orlando banned Great Tusk, and No More Heroes was on their kind of not banning streak starting that week. So we had some pretty interesting stuff there. Regardless, should No More Heroes decide to ban this week, I mean, anything's possible. I think you have reason to say that Archaludon or Celesteela are ban-worthy, I guess. Or you can be very scared of what potentially could be there for a Power Herb Volcarona. I don't know. Or Mega Beedrill. I don't know. On Orlando's side, I suspect that we're probably going to see a ban of either Mega Diancie, or we're going to see Tapu Fini get banned. From all that I know from the last week of action, since they cannot repeat bans from the last week of action, Kalui definitely did ban Great Tusk, so they do have to keep that in mind. And Orlando had Celesteela banned, so maybe we see Mega Beedrill. I perhaps think we might see Archaludon or Jirachi, but regardless, I think that this matchup, despite it being only a +2-5, a 2-0 +5, victory for Orlando last time, I still think they win this matchup. Maybe not as handily. I think this definitely goes to game 3. Depending on the bans, if Mega Beedrill's banned, this definitely goes to a game 3. If not, this could be wrapped up in 2 games if you can wear down this team really easily. They have high octane special offense with Volcarona and Rabombi and possibly Jirachi and Celesteela, and even Archaludon, and really good physical offense with Buzzwole, Melmetal, Iron, Treads, and the Mega Beedrill. So it just depends on what they want to go for. On the other hand, No More Heroes has shown that they can definitely still contend with everybody. I mean, excuse me, that they can contend with everybody based on their last week of action, how that went. But I definitely think that it really comes down to the fact that if they decide not to ban, this becomes a harder matchup, and depending on what does get banned, Tapu Fini, Landorus, even Ursaluna, and Great Tusk is immune at least, and even Mega Diancie could be banned. It really just comes back to the fact that they have to figure out a way around Steel and not the other way around. And while yes, Ground is super effective, with things like Celesteela being allowed to be in play, and other mons being able to be defensive enough to eat ground hits like Buzzwole and Araquanid, I think that this is a really hard matchup for No More Heroes. Regardless, I have Orlando winning 2-1. But let's move on to the second matchup of quarterfinals, and that is the 3-6 matchup, which is the Vegas Goldango as the 6 and Malfour Mayhem as the 3. I would have just switched them, honestly, but I'm too lazy. There's a lot of things to go around here. So first and foremost, Vegas dropped a lot of mons. 4 mons, which is the limit, of course. They dropped Indeedee Psychic with Hoopa Unbound Psychic, Crocodile Dark for Tinglu Dark, Morpeko Dark for Weavile Dark, and Orbeetle Psychic for Alolan Raichu Psychic. There's a bit in the server that I'm not going over, so you just have to be there. Join the server. While Malformed decided to drop the Primarina for Enamorus, which enabled them to allow Pelipper as their water type. As their 5th water type, at least. So, we see the banning of Mega Swampert and the banning of Weavile. Pretty standard bans, I think. Weavile's definitely really good into Sandy's team. While on Cog's side, I think that Mega Swampert would definitely put his team out to pasture. The real X factor of these matches comes back to the fact is, does Cog have enough to really win this matchup handily? I think Alolan Raichu is going to have a fun time. If you can get off the manual electric terrain, I mean, it really just comes down to, do you have Hidden Power Ice for Landorus or not? And I feel like you will, which means Sandy has to be very careful about his prepping as well. Despite having all 4 of the genies in different forms, I think that he still has to play this very carefully, because being a 3 seed is good and all, but you never know. I think that Enamorus is going to play a really heavy part here. Despite Tinglu being picked up, that doesn't really matter when you can definitely still bring like offensive physical Enamorus and such. So this really comes back to who gets who first and the sack race. Because while Cog is a 6 seed, his team is not built like one. And just for brevity's sake, before I get too far, the first time these guys played, funny enough, I'm pretty sure was week 3. Malformed won 2-1 +1. This was the week where Cog basically ran a Trick Room sort of team first game, and then the next 2 games were Sandy dominance, or really just Sandy coming back to win. So, realistically, I think that Sandy should be able to pick up this again 2-1, but with Cog, you never know what can happen. In a lot of my leagues, bottom seeds, or even low seeds rather, have a very fun time at making it to finals, or making a run to semifinals at the very least. Sandy would know. Back in the day, he was an 8th seed in a little cup league I was running, and he made it all the way to finals. Unfortunately, he fought the juggernaut known as that one guy Ben, so things didn't end up very good. Regardless, 2-1 Sandy, but this can go literally each way. Hoopa Unbound is going to be very interesting to see, since it didn't get drafted initially by Cog, and Tinglu is going to be very interesting to see because it's definitely coming in this game. But we'll see. Will Rain wash away Cog, or will Cog figure out that, you know what, fuck it, we ball, and see how far he can get with it? It's any man's game, this game. And since there are bans, I can talk more about them. Because Weavile definitely puts a big pinch on Sandy's team. So banning it was definitely the best decision possible. I think you could have gone with either that, or if you're really fearful, Roaring Moon. But you have a good fairy type, so why not? And on Cog's end, it's very obviously going to be Mega Swampert. Well, yes, he does have Ludicolo. Ludicolo's not the strongest in the rain. Mega Swampert is insane in the rain. No pun intended. But regardless, Sandy 2-1, but I think this goes literally either way, and I'd be satisfied with whoever wins. That's going to do it for the quarterfinals preview with me, IncogM here. I will say that it really will be a marble race for who faces who. So it could be possible that Cog has to face up against Primer next, or Komori next if he wins. You know, it doesn't matter what your seeding is. I literally will randomize it, and they will see it in call. Regardless, that's the quarterfinal preview. By the time the next video comes out, we'll have known bans for the other matchup, and we'll go over them a little bit, just making sure that we have it at the beginning of the video. But also, we'll talk about those games. There will be more replays in this playoff section and more detailed responses for all these games. Reactions, responses, whatever you want to call them. Thank you all for watching throughout this season, and I will talk to you guys next time in the next MDA video where we cover quarterfinals and go over semifinal matches. Until next time, good night and good luck.